Well, good morning. It is Wednesday, February 4th. This is day 3 of daily videos where I try to take as little amount of your time as I can while also conveying to you something about myself, why I want to be mayor, how municipal government needs to work, how it can work in St. Stephen better than it does now, that kind of thing. So maybe some of you are excited for the juicier stuff. If you want to skip right to kind of my platform, for lack of a better word, although see my first video about how a mayor doesn't make a bunch of promises. That is not the role of mayor, but a mayor is interested in a great council team, good government, and holding the CAO to account as they manage their staff. So that is what I am talking to you about, but you can go to buildupststephen.ca for kind of the full gamut there. It's my website that is going to evolve along with you over the next 97 days. Is that what we're down to? 96? Yesterday, I drew I guess what we're calling is the municipal hourglass of service delivery, okay? This is just an illustration to help you wrap your head around what sometimes can be quite a hairball, quite confusing in terms of, how does your municipal government work? So yesterday I wrote, I didn't write this when I showed you this last. So I have added, this is your municipality here. This is how it functions. And it is a corporation. Did you know that you live in a corporation? St. Stephen was incorporated in 1871. I think it's really good to think about, if you know about corporations, if you think about corporations as the model here, because that's what it is, a corporation has a board of directors, a chair of that board, and of course there are shareholders. And then the corporation actually runs with executive directors or senior managers and then staff who are carrying on the work of the corporation. Well, it's very similar in the municipality. So if you're familiar with that model, it'll help you get your head around it. If not, hopefully this helps you. Before I, talk about anything else, I think I mentioned yesterday, it's important to understand just the lay of the land here. So over the next few videos, I want to talk to you about really 3 important entities in this model. There's your council, which you are going to elect a new council on May 11th of this year. And then there is the mayor, and these are different entities in the different, specific parts of the same entity, which make up the council, your council. But then down here we have the administration, and I want to focus on the role of the CAO, the Chief Administrative Officer, who is essentially in charge of the staff and everything that happens in the implementation of the services. And that's why I called this the hourglass of service delivery, because that is ultimately the work of a council and a staff, is to make decisions on your behalf as residents, what is best for you. Things are always evolving, things are always changing, so there need to be resolutions and bylaws and updating that happens by your council, and then that moves down and meets very practical delivery, like flowers and roads and salt on the roads and zoning bylaws and all those things, okay? So that is how this works. Now, I folded this paper in half yesterday because never the twain are supposed to meet, really. The council, the same way if this was a corporation, it is a corporation, the same way if it was another business, you don't have the board having their board meeting and then running onto the factory floor and doing the actual work. That is not how it works, right? That would be illegal. It's not part of the structure. So similarly, your council has very specific roles to fulfill in this model, and anything that is decided by your council in St. Stephen moves through the Chief Administrative Officer. I'll just say this up front. It's kind of a reveal for future videos, but your council has only one employee. Do you know who that employee is? It is the CAO. All right, so the CAO heads up all the administration of the staff, all the delivery of the services. They are the expert, and that is why your council hired them on. And at the same time, they are the only employee of council. So they report to council, and council holds them accountable and directs them based on the decisions they make. So what I want to focus on, like I said, over the next few videos is the council and the mayor and then the CAO and how that works. Now, these things are so separate that in fact, when you go online and start looking at associations and agencies that support them, you have kind of, for example, the Union of Municipalities of New Brunswick is where you'd want to look for governance and decision making and policy setting. That is an association of a number of municipalities, most municipalities in New Brunswick, and together they form a collective of educating and resourcing and things like that. And then down here, especially for CAOs, there is a Canadian Association of Municipal Administrators. And again, that specializes in people who run cities and towns and municipalities, educates the CAOs, gives them best practices, etc. So we always want that, and there are amazing resources out there for kind of both halves of the hourglass, which make up the whole of your municipal government, okay? So let me just give you a brief outline now of what the council does. I won't make a list of what the council cannot do, but we do see examples of that. Sometimes I feel like we see councils not doing enough. They say, well, we can't do X, Y, Z. No, council can make a bylaw. Now, of course, there are lots of regulations around fair bylaws. You can't target a business or a person and make a bylaw about them. That's why bylaws need to be generally applied, universally applied. But for example, a lot can be done in kind of types of land or types of areas or zones or things like that. So there are a lot of things that council can do that when sometimes they say, well, we can't do that. And sometimes council will say that they can do something when they can't. And I'm thinking recently of, a couple of municipalities that got a bit of a slap down when they outlawed recording in a council meeting. They just kind of said the public is not allowed to record. Well, that was not true. So again, they got slapped for that. Another example came up recently where municipalities were doing a lot of closed sessions, and the province just came out and said, hey, remember the Local Governance Act says that you can't do all these closed sessions. There's a very specific list of things that you can have in closed session for very specific reasons, but sessions of council need to be open to the public. So that's an example of, hey, you can do some things you don't think you can do. You can't do things maybe you thought you could do. But I want to talk to you about what council can do, okay? So it is the role of council to set direction and policy based on the needs of the entire community. So that is, I'd say first and foremost, this is your council, and you being a resident, somebody who funds this corporation, lives here, pays taxes, you need a voice at the table, and that is essentially what council is to bring, is your voice, but not just your voice. Council needs to consider what is best for the entire municipality, the health of every resident and everyone within its borders. So it's important to get your voice there, maybe organize, maybe form a group or a community of people who have a specific interest or viewpoint or opinion. But at the same time, when council comes together to set a policy or direction or even a bylaw, the entire health of everyone must be considered. Council also does very practical things, like we said, pass bylaws, set resolutions. They authorize signings and contracts and things like that where it is appropriate for them to do so. Setting of deeds and things like that. They approve the strategic plan. We've talked here before about the St. Stephen Municipal Plan, which our community does have. They approve the budget. They are part of listening to the community, analyzing what it is that staff is putting together as a budget, because again, that is the expertise of the CAO and the department heads and how much money they believe they need. But ultimately, it is council that decides on approving that budget. And they ultimately, as I said, give direction to the CAO and ask for accountability from the CAO. They do provide the performance reviews of the CAO. That's a mutual process, and whether it's annually or quarterly, which is something that I would like to see, because the CAO is the only the only employee of the council, and they oversee all of the delivery of services. It's really important to hold a CAO really to account, make sure they're at their best and they're doing a great job. And so that is how that works. So again, budgets, bylaws, strategic direction, all that kind of stuff, that is what a council is supposed to do when it is doing the work that is set forth to do in the municipal, the Local Governance Act. Okay, there, I said it again. All right, that is it for today. In the next video, I want to talk then, what are the implications of a councillor and how a council best conducts itself. Obviously, as someone who wants to be the mayor, as the lead of this team and collective, what does a councillor and the councillors, we know what the council is supposed to do. What is the role of councillors as they form this collective? Thanks for spending time with me today. We will see you tomorrow. As I said, buildupststephen.ca. You can check that out for more about me. Until then, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and let's build up St. Stephen.